Hi guys, BellaDonna Black here, and here are 5 true creepy stories. So, turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Number 1. It didn't actually happen to me, but it happened to my mum when she was a teenager. My mum is now in her mid-60s. She's not an overly religious woman. She doesn't read the Bible regularly, rarely goes to church, but she prays every night because that is what gives her comfort. I'll have to side note this with, I watch normal horror movies of her every so often. Nothing too crazy or gory, but spooky enough. Well, I asked her if she wanted to watch The Exorcist, and she flat out 100% refused. She said there is absolutely no way she will ever watch anything related to possession or exorcisms. Well, this was curious. So the movie Constantine comes out, and I show her the trailer, asking her if she wants to watch it. She sees the girl near the beginning climbing the ceiling and just refuses again. I should also note, my mother will refuse and kick you out of her house if you even think about bringing a Ouija board into the house. She'll yell, scream and cuss until you drop the subject, and that's that. This is important. Alright, so that little backstory is out of the way. I ended up asking her why exactly she refuses to watch those sort of movies. Well, she tells me when she was a teenager, at a sleepover at a friend's house, they were all playing games. The parents watching TV. Her friends and herself are on the floor playing a board game. A game my mum has never played before. We'll come to find out that it's a Ouija board, and she doesn't know. Well, they start playing and asking a bunch of questions. They end up finding out there's a spirit in the house, so they ask it to show itself. Nothing happens. They demand it to show itself. This was their first indication something wasn't right, because the lights all around the house, every single room, went out immediately, including the TV, and then snapped right back on. Spooky, huh? Nah, just a fluke. They ask the next question. Who are you? The piece moves round the board in a big circle with their hands on it and stops at the letter D, moves to the letter E, then to the letter V, I, L. Whoa, someone must be messing with it. This can't be real. So they ask, if you are the devil, then show yourself. Nothing happens for a while, and then suddenly the TV goes out. Well, in the reflection of the TV sitting in the living room next to them, my mum and her friends, even her parents, could make out the shape of something terrifying, just sitting there next to them. The house got extremely cold. Suddenly, loud noises could be heard in the kitchen, stuff flying off the top of the refrigerator and cupboards opening and closing. They immediately stop the game, close it up, and throw it in the trash, never to play one again. Later that night, my mum is sound asleep, and is awoken by something loud and clanging on the roof. She listens intently, and she can hear what sounds like chains and dogs up on the roof. Well, that's not possible. It must be outside somewhere. She wakes up the next morning and goes and talks to her friend's parents. Asks them if any of their neighbours have any dogs. They tell her no, and they tell her they also heard the dogs and chains up on the roof last night. So that's the story of why my mum refuses to watch anything that involves exorcisms. She truly believes that the devil was there with them that night, sitting next to them. And the messed up thing is, every time she tells me that story, I get this cold shiver down my spine, that there's no way I should be making this up. Number 2. When my grandmother was about 60, she lived in a nice cul-de-sac, surrounded by woods. One of her neighbours was about 20 years old, and lived with his mum. One day, he asked my grandma if she would mind showing him where the blackberry bushes were in the forest, because his mum wanted to bake a pie. She says okay, grabs a basket and flashlight, and they head off into the woods together. About half a mile into the woods, he attacks her. He pulls a knife from his pocket and slits her throat. She fights back, and he slits her throat again, making blood pour from her neck. But he somehow didn't cut the arteries deep enough to kill her immediately. After a couple of minutes, she realises there's no escape. So she pretends she is dead, faking her breathing while he rips her clothes off. He strips her lower half nude and tries to rape her. But I guess the whole fucking grandma's corpse isn't appealing enough because he can't get up. He gets quiet, listening to her lack of breathing to make sure she's dead, before he stuffs his dick back in his pants and leaves her in the middle of the woods, taking the flashlight with him. She stays still for about 5 minutes, bleeding out, before she thinks the coast is clear. She wraps her discarded sweatpants tightly around her neck and walks the opposite direction through about 3 miles of dark woods. She eventually comes upon a small road and collapses in front of an oncoming car. The people in the car stop just in time and bring her to the hospital. She survived. Number 3. When I was younger, we lived in an apartment complex, which my mother managed. The day before Halloween, she was telling us all a scary story about how 2 little boys and their mum died above us. There's a vacant apartment above us, and how, if you listen closely, you can still hear their footsteps running up and down the hallway. Well, at that very moment, what do we hear? The sound of running upstairs. The look on my mother's face was pure terror, so she called the cops that patrolled the neighbourhood, and one of them on duty meeting his guys, and they went into the apartment. Turns out, a homeless mother had slipped in through an open window with her 2 children and had been living there for some time, and my mother never told another ghost story again. Number 4. This isn't my story, so it takes away from the horror factor a bit, but it's from a good friend that I know doesn't make shit up. His story happens when he was about 8. He was playing hide and seek with his friend at his house. It was late, probably about 10ish. It's my friend's turn to find his friend. He's looking everywhere around the house, but he can't seem to find him anywhere. He eventually decides he must be hiding outside, so he leaves the house to find him. He starts searching around some bushes when he hears his friend's voice coming from a darker corner, maybe 20 feet away. The voice calls for him to come over. He didn't, because he was already spooked out not being outside in the pitch black. My friend yelled back, "No, you come over here." That's when he said it really started to get spooky. He told me the voice that sounded just like his friend kept insisting that he come over to the dark corner. My friend kept saying no over and over again. At this point, he said the voice suddenly changed to a dark, horrible sounding voice, demanding he come over. At this point, he ran back inside, only to see his friend in the living room. When questioned how he got inside so fast, the friend said he never went outside. Now, I know both of these guys, none of them make shit up, and I doubt it's the case of imagination gone wild. Whatever that voice was, it still spooks me just thinking about this story. Number 5. I grew up in a house that's pretty old. It was built in 1856. The dining room has a giant window facing the front porch. The porch is wrapped around the house to the kitchen door on the side. There's a living room right next to the dining room that gives a perfect view of the window. One night, while Lila was visiting home from college, I was watching television in the living room. I was the only one awake in the house. My mother was asleep, and my father and sister were elsewhere. I hear a small clicking noise and direct my eyes over to the dining room window, and I see a silhouette of a large man in a flannel or a coat, and wearing a baseball cap. He was just standing at the window, facing into the house. My heart was about to explode, but I didn't move an inch. If he was watching me, I didn't want him to know that I saw him. I got up, walked over to the stairs, and as soon as I reached them, I sprinted up to my room. I grabbed a loaded .35 caliber Marlin 336C and my uncle's combat knife that I used in Vietnam. I walked downstairs, threw on all of the lights and busted out the kitchen door as I cocked my rifle. Firmly, but without yelling, I said, "I have a gun, come out and I won't shoot you." 2 footsteps on the wooden porch. I swung around to the front porch, completely prepared to attack someone. But there was nothing. I spent about an hour searching around the 2.5 acre property for this person, but I never found anything. I didn't sleep that whole week. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.